So, you might have already known by now, as we're on to the 13th episode, that I like to wear different NASCAR merch throughout all my episodes. You know, just try something different and put on, like, different shirts and hats. Well, just yesterday, I got probably one of the best hats I now own. So, yep, a Silicon Motor Speedway hat. So, it wasn't a fever dream. Silicon Motor Speedway exists, I got a physical hat to prove it. Or, you know, the eBay seller I bought it from could be just a CIA agent trying to gaslight me. Welcome, everybody, to the... It says 12th episode here, but I think it's the 13th episode. Whatever episode it is on the thumbnail and the title of the Burnout series. I said 13th, but I think it might be 12th or 13th. I don't know. But yeah. This week, it's all about the Monster Mile, Dover Motor Speedway, and this week was a pretty good race, to say the least. Dover Motor Speedway is a track that I feel like a lot of people tend to sleep on. I consider it to be a short track. A lot of people don't consider it a short track because, actually, it's 1 mile, so it actually doesn't count. It counts as a short. I think a short track is a mile or less. So Dover's a short track since it's a mile long. So I think it should fit in with the rest of the tracks like Bristol, Martinsville, Richmond. But regardless, it's a track a lot of people tend to sleep on. And this week was no different. Even with Dover's race being rained out and the track having a little bit different of a feel to it, we still had a great show regardless. And it's a track that I feel like is a fantastic track. It's just people don't really think about it too much. It's more of an afterthought, if you ask me. Of course, first things first, Martin Truex Jr., after going winless in 2022, finally scores his first points-paying victory in the next-gen era. Earlier this year, he did win the Clash to Coliseum, but that was not considered a points race. But this week, he managed to win at Dover, which is kind of fitting considering that he won his first ever Cup victory at Dover. So, yep, and if you have to ask the question of, do I think he deserved that victory? It is a definite yes. He definitely showed up late in the race, and not only that, but he also managed to pull it off great with a fantastic pit strategy and managing to pull away with the victory with only 2 tires, with many drivers behind him going with 4 tires. So, yeah, Martin Truex Jr., we have definitely seen the past do fantastic at Dover, as well as also rained out races. You usually get to see him up at the front during those rained out races, and this week was no different as he managed to score the victory this weekend. His first victory in the next gen era that was points paying, and after not making the playoffs last season, he is going to make it this year. So yep, I definitely do think, I did say earlier this year that I feel like the Clash win was going to give him the motivation he needed to be back up as a consistent driver for JGR. It is definitely being shown so far this year as he managed to snap such a huge winless streak that he's had ever since he joined JGR and become a Toyota driver. And of course, there was also some other drivers as well. So first things first, of course, has the other drivers that are worth talking about. William Byron won the first stage and was a silent threat at the end of the race as well in that final restart in the top 5, but just couldn't get that victory as he was behind a bunch of traffic. Yeah, that third win is going to have to wait. But regardless, William Byron is in fact breaking out as of recent. He is probably the best driver right now at Hendrick Motorsports. Sort of a mix between him and Larson, I think, are 2 of the best drivers right now, which is great to see that Hendrick didn't give up on Byron, as he is managing to show that he is capable of being a great Hendrick driver. And it really came to show this weekend. And of course, the other driver we're talking about is, of course, Ross Chastain, finishing second in this race. And he really showed that he was capable of winning this weekend. Had a very fast car. The only thing that really held him back was some slow pit stops, and that ultimately ended up costing him the victory. But also, of course, the other thing that he's done before, that he does all the time, is wreck people. And we got to see it this weekend as he wrecked out Brennan Poole accidentally and taking out driver Kyle Larson as well, who was on the lead lap battling for his position. Oh my gosh. So yeah, like I said, he called it an accident, but we all know he did that on purpose. I don't even... Nowadays, it's just, I don't even know what's an accident and what was intentional. But, yeah. Later in the race, when he was battling with Truex for the lead at the end of the race. Kyle Larson did slow down Ross at the end of the race. That is technically race manipulation, but of course, since Larson's a Hendrick driver, he won't get any penalty. But meanwhile, Ty Gibbs, who also slowed down Ross to help out his teammates, probably going to get the book thrown at him later this week and going to get penalized for that, even though he sort of blocked Ross for way short of a time than Larson. But we all know Hendrick drivers get away with things scot-free that other teams get the book thrown at them for. But regardless, Ross Chastain is currently leading the regular season points as of this time. So, even though he hasn't won anything yet, his consistency is definitely helping him out in the long term. And of course, the last thing to talk about with the Cup race was, of course, I already mentioned, the race was the first race this year to have a rain delay. And as I mean by the race was canceled and moved to Monday. That's why this video is up later today, because I need a little bit more time to edit the video since I had less time to work on it. Oh yeah, and I also have a different work schedule this week to add more salt to the wound. Whew. Yep, that's everything for the Cup race this weekend. And then the other thing to talk about was the Xfinity race, which actually had a different Truex win. Ryan Truex scoring, I believe, his first career victory, this time with JGR in the number 19, which is a fantastic victory considering a couple years ago he could have gotten his first win in the 20, I believe, at Dover, but ended up getting outran for the victory, did not get that win. But this week was different. He managed to score a victory. So, yep, the Truex brothers officially own Dover Motor Speedway as of now, as they have won both races this weekend. Pretty fantastic. I didn't catch too much of the Xfinity race. I did more focus on the Dover race at the Cup Series. But, yeah, as far as I'm aware, it was a pretty good race. And Ryan Truex scoring his first ever victory in the Xfinity Series. So, and as of now, that means that every driver, every car has won with JGR. Every JGR driver in the Xfinity Series has won a race this year. John Hunter-Nemechek won 2, Sammy Smith won 1, and Ryan Truex won 1. I mean, Joe Graf Jr. hasn't won anything yet, but maybe in the future. I don't know. And that is it for the Dover weekend. If you ask me, it was a solid 8 out of 10 week. Pretty good racing, even with a rain delay. And we got to see Martin Truex snap his winless streak that he has had for the past year. Alright. With that being said, let's go ahead and talk about all the other things to talk about. Don't forget to like, comment, subscribe, turn on notifications. And I really don't have anything else, any other jokes, so we're just going to end it on that. Alright, let's go on to the other news. First things first to talk about. This happened, I think, shortly after the last Burnout episode came out. Alex Bowman is out yet again for injury that he had in a, I think, World of Outlaws or sprint car race. Pretty wild flip, ended up injuring his vertebrae, so he is going to be out for the next couple races. Which, man, Alex Bowman is really starting to show a similar fate to what Steve Park had in the Cup Series. A very talented driver that ultimately ended up having his career screwed over because of injuries. So it could be that if he comes back, he's really not going to show that same amount of skill and talent that he had in the past. That really sucks, because Alex Bowman, he really is showing that he has the capability of being a great driver in the Cup Series. We got to see him win 3 races in 2021. We got to see him win 1 race last year. Another thing worth talking about was also some fans and other people have been talking about this as well. Asked the question of, should NASCAR and other teams ban their drivers from competing in other series to prevent them from getting injured in those other series? If you ask me, it should be an absolute no. I feel like NASCAR, even though it is a good reason to keep their drivers safe, is going to end up shooting themselves in the foot for that reason, because a lot of drivers feel like they have a lot more success in other series. Like, for example, if this were to happen, I wouldn't be surprised if Kyle Larson, Chase Briscoe, and Christopher Bell jump ship to go back to racing in the Outlaws, because that's where they're usually more comfortable at. Even though it is a good reason to why that should happen to keep their drivers safe, at the same time, I feel like NASCAR drivers should have the freedom to race in other series, because just race what they feel like. So I don't want to really, we need to restrict them for their safety. Next up, we have, this came out just recently, NBC and Fox is expected to sign for broadcasting rights through 2024, but is also talking about potential mid-summer thing where they're going to be having it run with a digital streaming service. Which I've talked about this before. I I'm kind of 50-50 on it. On one hand, I feel like it would definitely help NASCAR get to a more younger demographic, since a lot of people nowadays don't even bother with cable. They just go with streaming services. But on the other hand, I feel like it is a risky move because it depends on the streaming service. If it was on something big like Amazon Prime or Hulu or some other major streaming service like Peacock or something, it could potentially work. But it could also be on a very obscure streaming service that nobody will watch, and that could affect NASCAR long term, because nobody will watch it and NASCAR's ratings will decline. It could work either way. I don't really know what to say because I'm not really into streaming services that much. I just watch what's on TV, YouTube, and whatever DVDs I can find, because streaming services these days suck. All right, next things up. Darlington is coming up in a couple weeks. I think it's coming the week after next week. So we got Kansas and then Darlington. So a load of Darlington throwbacks have been coming out as of recent. But to keep things short, I am not going to be talking about any of them in this video. I'm going to be making a full-on Darlington throwback tier list when all the throwbacks are done. Probably the day after the throwback weekend, I'm probably going to make it so that we have a little bit more time talking about every single throwback that came out this year. Expect that to come out soon, because there's been a lot of good throwbacks coming out so far this year. So I can't wait to talk about them. Next things up, or next things next, whatever you want to say. Project 91 is announced going to be coming back at the Chicago Street Course race. As their driver has been announced, I'm going to botch this name up very hard. Van Gisbergen is going to be driving the number 91 car for Trackhouse in the Chicago Street Course race later this year. So, good, I guess. I don't really know where he comes from because I don't really focus on much motorsports out of NASCAR. I mean, I understood Kimi Räikkönen for a while because, I mean, I kind of watched a little bit of F1, but not anymore because F1 fans are super toxic now. Yeah, pretty good to see the third Trackhouse car back in action once again later on this year at the street course, along with other drivers like Jimmy Johnson is going to be racing in the street course as well. So, can't wait to see what happens there once again. Next up, we're going to be talking about something that isn't really NASCAR related, just something a little bit fun that I noticed when I clicked onto this weekend. The popular Steve Lewender random fantasy picks might be coming to an end thanks to Twitter's new API. Basically, if you don't really follow too much on Twitter, I don't blame you. Elon Musk, which now owns Twitter, is trying to crack down on scam bots and spam bots, and he is changing the Twitter API to make it harder to create bot channels, which in a vacuum does sound good, but you do gotta realize that most of the time people use bots for fun little gimmicks and stuff. Like, for example, just to post auto gimmicks and stuff, which, like the Steve Lewender random fantasy pick, which you pick a random driver in the field, and that's your prediction for the weekend, and you get points depending on that. Sort of like rolling the dice a little bit. So, yeah, it is kind of fun, but at the same time, thanks to this new API that Twitter's getting, that random fantasy pick might be coming to an end, as this new API is planning on just straight up slashing all the good bots. So yeah, that sucks. And then lastly, the other thing to talk about is the next drivers in the 75 greatest drivers of all time. We talked about the last 10 as the past couple weekends, but the next 5 has come out. As I already mentioned before, Carl Edwards is part of that list, but also Jeff Burton, Ron Hornaday Jr., Dale Earnhardt Jr., and Bobby Labonte are also in the top 75 drivers, which I feel like are some fantastic picks. So first things first, of course, Jeff Burton hasn't really had much of a successful career as many of the other drivers on this list, but he has still definitely had a great career nonetheless. Whether it be racing for Roush or RCR, he has been a pretty consistent driver in the field. So, yep, great to see Jeff Burton on the field. Next up, Ron Hornaday Jr., a superstar in the Truck Series. Definitely deserved that victory, especially since how well he's been in the Truck Series in the past. So, and of course, Dale Earnhardt Jr., what do I have to say? It's Dale Earnhardt Jr., 2-time Xfinity champion, 2-time Daytona 500 champion. Could have won the championship in 2004, but TV sucks. And then lastly, Bobby Labonte, brother to Terry Labonte, and also the 2000 NASCAR champion. Already won the championship before I was born, so I really don't care, but whatever. Was a fantastic driver for JGR. Definitely the first true star with Joe Gibbs Racing, along with Dale Jarrett, so pretty nice. So yep, that's everything to talk about this weekend.
Hold it!
Except not. Yeah, this is editing me here, and I was going to talk about this in the next Burnout episode or leave like a little text block in there, but I realized it's too big to wait because this is some huge news that came out shortly after I finished recording. Legacy Motorsports Club, home of the 43, 42, and the 84, including Jimmy Johnson, Noah Gragson, and Eric Jones. They're going to be switching to Toyota in 2024, which is insane. They have now pretty much run every single manufacturer under the sun in the modern era, and this coming year, they're going to finish the entire list. They've run Buicks, Oldsmobiles, Pontiacs, Fords, Chevrolets, Dodges, and now into 2024, they're going to be running Toyotas now for the first time ever in the Cup Series. They did run Toyotas in the Xfinity Series before, but this is going to be the first time they're going to be running Toyotas in the Cup Series. So, I feel like it's definitely going to make their performance a little bit better in the future, because Toyotas are really good. I don't know if they're going to be running JGR engines or if they're going to be running their own engines, but do expect that team, even though a lot of fans aren't going to be happy with them running Toyotas, especially some of the older fans, I do think that the 43 and the 42 cars are going to be much better in 2024 with these new Toyota engines. All right, now we're done. And then before we go, we got to talk about our picks for Kansas, which is this weekend. So, yep, so we got only the Trucks and the Cup Series Xfinities off this weekend. So let's go ahead and start for the Truck Series. I really don't know who to pick anymore, because I really don't know who's good and who's bad in the Truck Series anymore, because I don't really follow it too much. But all I know is that Kyle Busch is going to be in the race this weekend, and he is pretty much the safest bet you can have. And lastly, for the Cup Series, we're going to be going relatively simple this weekend. I'm going to be going with Kyle Larson scoring his third victory of the year this weekend. He did show a lot of prominence in the spring Kansas race last year, straight up running into the wall trying to stop Kurt Busch from winning. Didn't really work, but still put on a great show. So yeah, that is it for episode 12 or 13. I don't know anymore. I feel like the CIA is gaslighting me because I mentioned Silicon Motor Speedway, and now they're trying to make me feel like it never existed, but you can never stop me. Thank you guys so much for watching. I will see you guys next week for the Kansas video. And yep, I'm going to go ahead and cry because I feel like the CIA is harming me because I don't know. I said Arby's is good, and that's a crime.